Yeah, so we are streaming live on the SLCPython channel. There's our store, and yeah, let's set up. So this is SLCPython. This was started when Joe Reese and Ken were in a coffee shop at Sugar House, and I was like, hey, that's a Django admin console. And we started chatting, and we're like, hey, there's no Python group that is north of, Draper in Salt Lake City anymore, and we should start one. So we started one in Sugar House. We're on our, fourth year now? It's pretty crazy. Yeah, so that was back in 2014. Can you believe it's been so long? So we decided to start that meetup group. We were in Sugar House, and then we went to that one thing, what's it called? The one on 4th South that was a converted church? Church and State, that would make sense. We did a meetup there. And then, sorry?
It's a fantastic spot.
It is a fantastic spot. But they can't give us a consistent first Wednesday of the month, which is why we have this spot, where they can give us a consistent first Wednesday of the month. It's pretty awesome. We have a few other meetup groups. We have Python Utah North, which my father is now running, actually. So if you're out of Logan or Brigham City or even Ogden, that's a good one to go to. They often will have some members here. Anybody from Utah North here tonight? No? Well, the weather is kind of tricky to do that anyway. We also have the Salt Lake Pie Ladies. That's by Carrie Joy. They're more workshop oriented than lunch oriented. We have Python at the Point, which is held not at Needle, but at another place I always forget the name of. If you want to go south during rush hour on I-15, there you go. This is a great one to go to. They're all, so what are you playing, like video right now? Dylan, how could you?
I'm paying attention.
We also have Girl Develop at SLC. These guys are workshop oriented. So if you ever want to take your skills and apply it for a workshop to help the women in our programming community in Salt Lake City, this is a great place to do that. Girl Develop at SLC. You can check out their website. Other websites is slcpy.com, which Dylan set up and Ferris lost. By lost, I mean I can't find the server.
I found it for you.
Oh yeah, he found it, but
We should do a lunch date.
yeah, we're gonna do like a lunch and fix the server day.
Yeah.
This one, Utah Python, is hosted on GitHub, which will never go down. And that's Angular and all static. Maybe it should be React according to somebody. Yeah, maybe it should. GitHub repos. If you give a talk and it's on GitHub, I will fork it over to SLCPython. And then this repo has our actual website for Utah Python. Sponsors, Python East is like you. Thank you. Pat yourselves on the back. That's your $5 donation. We also have our yearly soiree where we have some really good eats and pizza and beer and cake and all kinds of fun stuff every February to celebrate our birthday as a group. Other sponsors, Xmission, for when you don't want deep packet inspection on your bytes, use Xmission. When you want to use more than 1 terabyte a month, use Xmission. If you want an actual gigabit line that is gigabit up and gigabit down, use Xmission. If you need a co-location because you're sick of using Amazon Web Service in order to do your sandboxed cloud stuff, use Xmission. Maybe pandering to Derek over here. Anyway, Xmission's awesome. They've been doing a full sponsorship for our pizzas for over a year now, which is awesome. So I literally just send them an invoice and a picture of the receipt saying, this is how much pizza costs. And they're like, oh, it's going to take us a week to get that check out to you. Is that okay? I said, you're paying. I don't care. So Matt White, who is not present today, he is actually the CFO of Xmission, so I always wave at him when he's here, and he lets me do the spiel. University of Utah has given us this venue for over a year and a half now, which is awesome. And Tech Systems. Do you want to give a spiel about Tech Systems, or should I give a spiel about Tech Systems?
You're just doing such a great job.
Am I? Okay.
That's a pretty good spiel about Tech Systems.
So Tech Systems actually originally recruited me for my first real career in Salt Lake City. What I liked about them is they never asked if I knew how to code in iOS. They actually know that I'm a Python dev and a Django dev, and they know what those words mean, and they will definitely find the right people for the job. When I became CTO at Zaniac, I actually utilized tech systems a couple of times to find some consultants and one contract to hire, and that ended up working great. So tech systems, if you are trying to recruit or you need to be recruited, we got a rep over here, so just say hi. New sponsors are always appreciated. Just message us through SLCPython, and every single thing up until today has been logged on SLCPython/money. That is public accounting. You can see every in and out of all of our cash, because yeah, we're open about that stuff. The only thing you won't see is specific members' names on there. We anonymize those, so you will see sponsor names though. So if you are like, hey, I want to be a sponsor, then we'll put your name up there, and it's great. Everything but, actually, I just realized we get some profit from these t-shirts, which is awesome, and all our other swag. I have not updated that because we just got our payout yesterday, so I still need to go through and do that. But yeah, thanks for helping us be a group, guys. So, speaking of which, while we're doing introductions, who here's new? Boom, lots of new faces. Great. So how we like to do this is like 90% like people and 10% code at this meetup. So we're gonna introduce ourselves, like I'll give you an example, and it's gonna be one non-code thing. Name, occupation, one non-code thing. The theme of the month is favorite barbecue. I already know Dylan's is jackfruit something or other. But so for
It's Ferris's jackfruit.
yeah, I make a very mean pork barbecue, vegan pork barbecue. So to the point where it inspired us to start a Slack channel, which I'm the honorary member of, called Veggie Team. Yeah. New members. So I'll give an example. I'm Ferris. I'm the senior backend janitor at Teem. I clean up people's code on the backend. And my favorite thing to barbecue or to eat at a barbecue has to be a perfectly done ribeye steak. I'm so sorry, vegan friends, but it is just so delicious. And yeah, who else is new? Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Ken Anderson. I'm a systems analyst for Utah Retirement Systems, and I like to barbecue big old ribeyes.
With you there. Everybody's going to say ribeye, I bet. Go ahead and pick the next person to go.
Yeah, I'm William Sidam. I'm a systems engineer at Fidelity Investment. My favorite thing to barbecue is chicken.
Chicken? Yeah. Do you put anything special on there?
Just some yogurt, paprika, lemon.
Nice. Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Oh. I might switch over to chicken now. Jeez. Who else? Who's new? Who's this guy over here?
Jeremy Smith, Director and Chief Bottle Washer at Teem, and Ferris's boss, and more or less. Yeah. Favorite barbecue? Since ribeye's already been taken, chicken's already been done, I'm gonna go for a nice good burger.
Solid. Solid. Who else is new?
I do tech support for Intermountain. But
What's your name?
I'm Sabri. I just graduated with a degree in math and computer science, and I like barbecue chicken.
Sweet. Who else? You can go now, Derek.
Well, okay. So, Derek, I'll be speaking to you in a minute. CTO at Teem. So that makes me Jeremy's boss.
Don't hold that against it.
Favorite thing to barbecue, easily pork ribs. Delicious.
Do you smoke them?
Sometimes, but usually just in some nice rub on the barbecue. And
One of my brewing friends got that. You guys seen that blue egg looking barbecue thing? And he just smokes like lamb and pork for like 12 hours. And then, it just peels right off. Guys, I want barbecue now. This weather is ridiculous. So, Cinco de Mayo. Hopefully the weather will be good, right? Who else is new? Anybody? Are there people who are new and not willing to say hi? Is that what's going on? No?
We'll be anti-barbecue folks out there.
Yeah. Well,
not
that's
new.
fun.
I'm not new,
Welcome.
But I have to say, brisket?
Brisket. No one had brisket. Yeah.
No one could fish either.
The Texan in me is a gas.
Tilapia.
Yeah. We just
Many
know what we
choices.
want. I will note that there was no vegan
That's not
vegan
barbecue.
selections for favorite barbecue.
That's
I'm
just
so
grilled.
sorry.
Yeah.
Sweet potatoes. Okay. Well, yeah. So welcome to the group if you're new. As you can see, we only have serious discussions here. Yeah, it's pretty fun. We're a fun group. While we're introducing, let's talk about who is hiring. I think Team's still hiring, right?
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Oh, okay. Derek is actually here to pitch our company.
I'll do it. Can I do it later?
He's going to do it later. Okay. Pluralsight, I think, is still... I left this from 2 months ago, actually. So if they're not hiring, let me know now. But somebody heard a little birdie saying that Pluralsight's hiring. Actually, I think they still are because I saw them on the... Does anybody subscribe to Hacker News? Yeah, they had like a who's hiring, and that was one of the first ones for the Utah who's hiring people. So yeah, they're still hiring. They're looking for Rubyists. Ugh. So yeah, and they're a React team and architects and all that other fun stuff. Is Domo still hiring? Anybody know?
I don't know.
No? You Domo? Smart. I like that pun. It is a day for puns. Let's see, who else? Oh, if you're looking to get hired, as I said, tech systems, do you know of any open Python positions offhand? Or
I do have a junior Python role right now. They're looking for somebody that has around 2 years, but we'll see if we can move to lower that a little.
wait, they want 2 years of experience for a junior position?
It's a kind of quick contract too. So,
Ah,
so yeah, we're gonna see what we can do around that. I've had several people reach out to me already for those of you that have, and I'm doing my best to see what I can make happen for people who are interested, of course.
Probably one also full stack Java, Python, and Ruby.
Yep.
Several Java frameworks.
able
as
to
well
program in
as,
C with
yeah,
one hand on an
can-
Android
can
device.
deploy.
An AWS Glue. So.
That is not a junior position.
I'm hoping it was just, kind of like HR tends to do, like, hey, this is what we work with, and we'll take somebody who doesn't have it, but then it'll be a good opportunity for somebody who doesn't.
I do not envy your position.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Awesome. Who else is hiring? Oh, sweet. We've got a couple hands. Brad, go for it.
StorageCraft is hiring a senior software engineer.
Is that where you landed, by the way? Yeah. At the end? Your storage
yeah.
craft? Yes.
Yep.
That's fun.
You'll be working on our new product. You'll be working in cross-functional teams with brilliant native developers who write things like C++, file system snapshot drivers, and drivers on hypervisors. The web backend is in Python 3. Our web UI is in Relay Modern and GraphQL. And if you're interested, please talk to me after the meetup, and I'll give you a business card.
Sweet.
Overstock is hiring fairly broadly. We're primarily a Java shop, but we're also looking for Java developers, etc. I don't know very much about that because I don't know the job. But we're also looking for data scientists and analysts as well. So we don't have any. I don't think there's like a posting up anywhere, but I know that we're looking to expand our team. So if you're interested in doing that, you've got some Python skills.
Data science for the Python role, typically.
Yes, you would be data science and analytics.
Using Airflow. You get
We
that-
are
you
using
get that
Airflow.
through?
We are using Airflow. We are
Nice.
using AWS and Google Cloud
Nice.
at the
And
same
Google
time.
Huh. Aren't you guys also on Oracle?
Yes, and Teradata.
Sounds like you need a systems
And we have
engineer.
an in-house Hadoop cluster.
You know what would help? Get some
We got a little bit of
NoSQL
everything.
databases.
So,
What's that?
No NoSQL databases. Got some of those floating
We got a
around.
Cassandra database.
Yeah? So who needs test driven when you got blog driven? Awesome. Who else? No, anybody else? Who's hiring in the Valley or beyond? No?
The Army.
The Army.
Yeah.
Hale Air Force Base
They
is always
have
hiring.
a direct commissioning program now, where you can come in at age below 42.
The U.S. Army?
Yeah.
Okay.
Part of the cyber command. It's badass. But
Sweet.
it's yeah. The cyber operations officer will be in charge of like a team of hackers and then provide the battlefield commander with network defense and as well as try to intercept and disrupt enemy technology systems.
Cool. I thought the Air Force was doing that stuff, or is it?
The Army has it now. I don't know if the Air Force, they get really picky, but the Army, yeah, and you can come in as a first lieutenant with additional pay for, yeah.
Interesting. Sweet. And anybody else? And our other favorite part of this, anybody who's looking, and now's your chance to stand up and market yourself. Why would we hire you? So, I know that you were looking. Come on. You really like working at Intermountain. Come on.
Yeah, I'm looking for a junior position. I just graduated. And
What was your last name? G.A.?
GOFF.
With 2 degrees, right? I mean, so you got a degree in
Math and
Sweet. Anybody else? Stand up, introduce yourself.
I'm William Snell. I'm looking for a systems engineer and network engineer, so I have experience in networking and automation, like cloud infrastructure automation stuff.
Network engineer? Do you say network engineer or what?
Yeah, network and cloud automation and scripting.
Sweet.
Use the word DevOps a lot in all of your interviews.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. Just say DevOps.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know.
DevOps engineer, but
Yeah. Sweet.
We know.
By the way, if I did add your name on here, be sure to double check that first link and add your contact details in here if you want. You could just, this is editable by anybody, so it's Etherpad. Anybody else looking? Going once? No? Dylan, don't raise your hand, okay? I know you do every time. I know that every time you're here, you and didn't even spell my name right. Jeez, delete Facebook and then you don't know how to spell my name? Yeah, you guys are having too much fun. Sweet, community news. That is Mutity news. We need community news. Oh, well, I wanted to click that. This is cool. So you guys see this? This is our own Matt Harrison. Isn't that cool? He is one of our members. He couldn't make it tonight, but we reached out and said, hey, congratulations. He's featured on one of the biggest book sales on the internet, which is awesome. The Humble Bundle itself is a bit of community news. If you are looking to brush up on your Python skills, or you want to try out PyCharm, you can try out PyCharm for 2 months for $1, which is awesome. They have Git Kraken, they have Thoughtful Machine Learning. This book just came out. Matthew Kirk, he's a great author. He'll be at PyCon this year. Who else? DigitalOcean, you can get a $50 credit for $16, which is pretty cool. PyCharm, you can do PyUp. Anybody know what PyUp is? PyUp will go through all of your pip dependencies and make sure that you are security compliant with all of them and up to date. And it's kind of something you can integrate along with something like Circle or something like that, where it'll just do a quick check and say, hey, you accidentally installed this really old version of Pillow that can be hacked by Russians and Chinese people at the same time. So but not the people, the
And
government,
Josh,
because the people
though,
are cool.
in his,
But
in his basement.
yes, and also Dylan when he's bored. Fluent Python is an excellent book. We actually, I think we gave one of those out a few months ago, but I'm not sure. With the lizard book, or is it a salamander? I don't know. Postman. Who's used Postman? Anybody? If you're developing APIs, Postman is a great one to have in your tool belt, your Swiss Army knife. I'm using that at Teem whenever I'm developing stuff for my friend in Teem. I'll try to give them a Postman link along with their Swagger docs and be like, hey, how's this look? And they'll say, it looks terrible, redo it. So it's great. Bonuses, if you pay $1 or more, you get 10% off their humble monthly bundle. And all of the proceeds that you want can go to the Python Software Foundation. They're doing their fundraising this month as well. They usually do it around PyCon anyway. They're great. Something interesting, if you guys have never used Humble Bundle, you can actually choose to put everything toward charity if you want. You can pick which charity. So this is actually going to St. Jude's Children's Hospital as well. I just noticed that. And you can say, hey, you Humble Bundle people are awesome. Or developers, you're cool. So you choose where your money goes. It's pretty sweet. What else? Oh, other community news. Net neutrality is something, it's the only political thing I tried to talk about here. It's under attack again. Because I literally, this is the third time. I think we need 4 or 5 of these. Every other month I have to bring this up. But this time, we're just trying to get a hold of any senator. So call your senator and be like, hey, I don't want to be throttled, or I don't want my website to be throttled. I'm trying to do a startup here. Let's make sure that the internet is neutral. And then they'll come back and say, oh, but if we regulate it, it won't be neutral. And you'll say, no, it's the opposite. If you don't regulate it, it won't be neutral, because then Comcast will say, hey, for only $2 more, you can also use Snapchat or whatever, right? So, yeah. For examples of how net neutrality has protected us, you can, I usually have this somewhere, but there's an image that actually shows you what it's like to buy internet in Portugal and Mexico. So over there, they have this big old thing and it says, hey, you can buy our social media tier plan for $10 a month. Or if you want to go special and also get your sports news, you get this package for another $10 a month, et cetera, et cetera. And they will throttle the crap out of everything else. So if you're trying to start a business that's internet-based, which like probably 90% of the people in this room are, or part of, then this is really important. Talk to your reps, make sure they understand the issue. And that's what I'll say about that. Any other community news? PyCon, forgot to write, PyCon is here. Dink, dink, dink. That is next Friday is when the main talks will start. Who's going to PyCon? Hey, me too. Who else?
How much does it cost? Do you want to go?
It's all sold out.
Too late.
Yeah, I bought my tickets in December. And it's in Cleveland, which has the most ridiculous airfare from Salt Lake City for whatever reason. Yeah, but Teem sponsored me this year, so I'm really happy about that. I will be doing a couple projects on PyCon like I always do and post them on my blog. Dylan, what do you got?
Open West.
Open West, that's coming. Open West is right here in our backyard, so you don't have to pay airfare unless you want to make a grand entrance involving parachutes. So, and I think is it June or July? It's June, yeah, you're right.
June 22nd. 7?
And I think somebody here is giving a talk about something at Open West. I don't know. Did your thing freeze, or did mine?
I don't know. It's not syncing. Oh, there it comes.
That's me.
There's you. Oh.
And
concurrency
desync.
is hard.
Yeah. 27th through 29th, is that what you're trying to write?
No, it's 7. No, I had it right.
Through the 9th.
7, yep.
27th to the 9th. That's really long.
That's tough. No.
Oh, yeah.
Anywho, we will also be having Dylan will be giving the same talk here on the 6th, correct? You still got you? Okay. Dylan's talk is entitled "How to Win at Data Without Even Trying," which I think is an excellent title for a talk.
Isn't Tim getting a talk?
Tim's getting
There.
thoughts.
Is Tim also?
Talks.
Are you also giving a talk? Yeah.
Yeah. I got
Cool.
accepted for giving a talk on, I forget the title, but it's,
You forget the title of your talk.
yeah.
It's just gonna show
It was representations for machine learning on audio data.
That's cool.
And metrics, tips, tricks, and pitfalls.
That's cool.
Pitfalls are important.
Sorry.
Nice. So yeah, that's one in your backyard. You can sign up today. Tickets were very inexpensive, very, very reasonable. I think it was, what was it, like a 200, 100? I don't know. I'm not going to say. 80? Probably. 85. Somebody can Google it. I would Google it, but I don't
people
know.
or more,
Yeah.
do $70. That might be a good idea to organize it through here.
Oh yeah, we could do that. Or your place of work as well. That's also good. But yeah, that might be good. Sweet. But yes, Open West. If you've never been, that's a blast too. Open West gets all kinds of people from the U.S. actually. Dan Callahan, who's giving the keynote at PyCon, has spoken at Open West a few times. So, huzzah! We get people in Utah sometimes. Sweet. New topics, new speakers for Utah Pythonistas. Anybody have suggestions? Oh.
PyTorch 1.0 was announced today.
Oh, really? That's cool.
I don't think it's actually
released today. They announced that it's going to be. It's some big.
Nice.
I'm not
Any other
very soon.
community news?
So there's Big Mountain Data Spring Conference. It's May 19th. But you have to go to Eventbrite to sign up for that.
And isn't Dev Days?
DevOps Days?
coming up?
I don't know. I'll talk to Lindley.
Didn't that already happen?
Did it already happen?
Yeah, I thought it did because
Okay.
he seemed a lot less
I-
stressed.
I was talking to him about it.
Okay, cool.
I have it just happened or is happening soon?
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to say it was like May 15th. Let's see. Yeah, DevOps Days was the 15th to the 16th.
We got people. There's that.
Any other community news? Stuff going on? Python will officially have 2 years left of Python 2 support. Officially as of, I think, this month. So.
Isn't the last visit happening right at end of December?
The last version, I think it is all end of December. The last supported 2.7. I think they're still going to do security releases until 2020. But 2020, around May, they're estimating is going to be the end of life for Python 3. So if your company's still using Python 3, hi guys. Something to think, or Python 2, then think about it. Yeah.
I'm behind the times apparently.
I know, right? We're going to Python 4, you know? What was the other one? Oh, Jupyter just won a big award. Oh, what was it? I thought that was pretty cool. They got like a software design award. I have to look it up, and I don't really want to Google while this is on screen. But yeah, Jupyter just won like a huge software design award. So it's pretty fun. Cool. Let's move on to new topics and speakers real quick. If you have a suggestion, you can tell me right now and I'll just type it in, or you can just go through here. We have a lot of really interesting ones, everything from list comprehension to testing to OpenCV to Python 3.6, Anaconda, deep learning, all sorts of stuff. On June, we're going to have our talk, How to Win at Data Without Even Trying. Without even trying or without trying? He does not remember, so he will have it set up by then. So we'll take a quick 5-minute break while we set up for the next talk, and we'll see you here at 5. Boop. You mind if I plug this in?
No, let's do.
This is where we're looking for someone.
It's funny how that works.
Oh, hey, welcome. Yeah, it's working beautifully. The old one was. Did you see what happened with the old one?
No, he just told me that was a problem.
Started here. So Derek Newbold is CTO of Teem. He joined us. When did he join us? Like 6 months ago?
It's actually, believe it or not, it's been 11 months.
Wow.
Dylan's keeping track, like the worst day ever. Thanks, Dylan.
So yeah, Dylan joined us at Teem. He's gotten things nice and clean and squared away, and I don't know. He's put together a team really well. I'm not brown nosing.
Right.
No, Derek's been awesome. He knows his stuff. He kind of surprised me a few months ago during our tech demo meeting. And he was like, "Hey, I have a demo," and we're like, "Wait, what?" And
What, CTO actually doing something?
I know, right? That's CTO who
You know?
codes. Who would have thought? And Derek is that CTO who codes. So he showed us this cool little chatbot that he was building for Teem. So I was trying to find a speaker, and I said, "Hey, Derek could do a quick thing about this. It's written in Python." So without further ado, Derek Newbold.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for, it's good to be here, actually. This is my first time here at the Python group, so really happy to be here. A little bit about me, first off. I did go to the U, so it's good to be back home, although, honestly, it's been a little while. I was just telling Ferris, I graduated in 2000, so it's been a few years since I've been here, but I did go to the U, got my computer science degree here, so a lot of great fond memories of the U. Been doing software development ever since. Started out my kind of software development over at Nginx. Did software development there for a while during the .com days. Went to a .com that we borrowed a bunch of money and burned through it in we borrowed $20 million and burned through it in about 18 months, and cratered with everyone else. But it was a fun ride. After that, went to a company that was originally called Mindshare, rebranded to InMoment. So I was at InMoment as CTO for 12 years, kind of from the beginning. Started with the company when the CEO called me up and said, "Hey, come join me." I said, "Do you have any money?" And he said, "No." So I helped him build some of the original solution in my basement. Shortly thereafter, I joined full time, and we grew. If you're familiar with InMoment, they've been very successful. So I helped grow that company into what it is today, and that was a great experience for me. But about 11 months ago, the CEO of Teem reached out to me and was looking for somebody to come in and help take Teem to the next level. And with some arm twisting, I decided to leave InMoment and join Teem, and it's been great. I don't know. Do I have a? I don't know. I thought I put a. Oh, I did put a. I'll come back to that. But if you're not anybody familiar with Teem, I mean, other than put your hand down, and you, anybody that's okay. So just a quick pitch on Teem.
Not on the payroll.
Yeah, anybody that's not on payroll or trying to get us talent. So just a little. I get the opportunity to pitch Teem a little bit here. So Teem. One of the things that drew me to Teem is there's actually not really a lot of opportunities here in the Valley, I think, like Teem. Still a small company. We're about 92 employees now. We're downtown Salt Lake, right in the Sweet Candy building on 2nd South and 2nd West. So we're still relatively small, but we're doing some incredibly cool things. One of the things the thing that really drew me to Teem is we're solving a problem that anyone that works in an office and has to deal with finding ways to meet with people in spaces and deal with technology, everybody is dealing with the exact same problem. There's not a great solution for it. Every single one of you is dealing with these problems. Our days are spent. Most people think that software developers, right? We spend all our days just writing code, but the reality is we actually spend a lot of time collaborating. And how do we find the right people, the right places, the right technology to enable us to work together? And without technology solutions to help, it kind of sucks. And that's where Teem actually was born. It was actually kind of born by accident by the previous CTO. He was frustrated with it, so he wrote a little iPad app and duct taped it to a wall and put it on the App Store, and it turns out everybody loved it. And so a company was born from that. And that's our original product was just that. It was using off-the-shelf iPads with an app on it where you could schedule a conference room, and so you could actually see what was happening in each of the conference rooms, and it shows up red if it's busy, green if it's not. That was the beginning, but we've expanded a ton since then. And when I decided to join, it was not about what we do with the iPads, because it's cool, but there's only so much you can do there. But what we're building is a better workplace experience. How do you leverage technology, including things like this, but it goes much further than that, and the chatbot is actually an important part of that. how do you leverage technology to help you work better together with your teammates? We call it workplace experience. How do you improve your workplace experience? And we're helping with that. So I was excited to come and be part of that. Saw it as a great opportunity for me to, I'd enjoyed my time at the moment, but this was an opportunity for me to kind of go back to a smaller company again and help grow that again. The team, I was really impressed the day I got there. Team's just excellent, doing some very innovative things, and we had a lot of fun. It used to be called Event Board. We rebranded the company, I don't know, 2 years ago. Dylan, I don't know, 2 years ago? I wasn't there. And the best part about it is we are hiring. We are always hiring. Since the day I got there, and I'm sure before that, we've just been hiring as fast as we can. So right now we have, Jeremy, 9 open positions, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
9 or 10, give or take. I mean, we're always hiring people. Right now we're looking for some really good mobile developers, iOS and Android, because we've got multiple mobile applications. I think 7 is the last count that we actually have on both iOS and Android. We're probably going to start onto a React Native version of this soon. So we'll be looking for React Native developers soon. Our entire backend is in Python and Django, Postgres database. So looking for full stack developers. Our front end web application is in Ember. So we're just looking for some good developers that can help us across the entire solution.
We also do data science using Python, and we built our own message queue based on 0MQ using Python as well. So.
Yeah. And all this is evolving very quickly, so we're looking for great people to come in and help us just continue to move this solution along and build great new capabilities. And we're just honestly, we're just getting started. The chatbot that I'm going to show you tonight is kind of an example of just some of the cool things that we are doing and starting to do. And it's just one of the many things that we're doing. So if you like working with, actually, I don't know if I've said this to Dylan and Ferris, but especially our mobile guys, they're building a new mobile application right now that's using beacons and push notifications, and it's stuff that a lot of us, at least me, go home and do in our spare time because it's cool and fun. And I'm paying these guys to do it. I have to remind them sometimes, like, hey, I'm paying you to do stuff that you do in your spare time. So, keep that in mind. So, anyway, we're doing a lot of fun things. So if you're interested, please come see me or Jeremy, and we'd be happy to talk to you. Or if you know anybody that would be interested, come talk to us. Please shout out any questions you have. I don't want to just stand up here and ramble. So, not a formal. Let's just make this fun and chat. And if you have questions, comments, whatever, just don't hold off. Just whatever comes to mind. So this is kind of the outline that I wanted to walk through. I already told you a little bit about Teem. I'm going to talk why would we build a bot. So I'll talk a little bit about that. Some of the technology choices that I've put into this. Architecture, we'll look at some code, we'll do a demo, we'll extend the demo a little bit, and some questions. So, first off, why would we build a bot? This is not a formal project yet. This has been something that actually I've just been playing with in my spare time. The reason for that is, kind of mentioned workplace experience, and the iPads that we have on walls, and that's great. What we hear from all of our users is, make it easier. I want everything that I use in the workplace to just be super easy. I want it to be super integrated. If I'm going into a conference room and I've got a video conference call, I just want it to just start automatically when I walk in the room by magic. Can you do that, right? And the answer is yes, we can. We're working on it. They also say, hey, it'd be really nice if I didn't have to, if I'm trying to schedule a meeting with multiple people across multiple offices, multiple time zones, it'd be really easy if I didn't have to try to figure it out. How many of you, and I don't know if it might just be me with my job, but I have so many times where I'm trying to schedule a meeting with, 6 different people in 3 different offices. Some, maybe one of them is in Germany and one's in New York and one's in Salt Lake, and there's emails going back and forth saying, hey, can you guys meet at 2 o'clock? I don't know, whose time zone? Is that 2 o'clock Mountain or 2 o'clock? And 5 days later, you finally might have found a time that you can actually just get together and do a phone call, right? Anybody have that experience? Sucks. So we want to make it so it is just incredibly easy to do those kinds of things in the workplace, things that suck. I'm going to talk about AI, or how I like to call this, not artificial intelligence, but augmented intelligence. I was in the Bay Area a couple months ago, and went to one of our investors is Nokia Growth, and the entire conference that I went to was around augmented intelligence. And the way that that's described is humans are actually really good at certain things. Humans, we actually are really good at thinking outside the box, coming up with solutions that may not be obvious. The human mind is really good at those kind of one-off situations. What we're actually not very good at is repetitive, mundane tasks. Not that we can't do it, it's just we get bored doing it. So we suck at it. So scheduling meetings, for example, we're actually, at least I am, really bad at. I will invite the right people, but I'll forget to add a video call, or I'll forget at a conference room, or whatever it may be. And the amount of time it takes to coordinate, we're actually all really bad at that. Augmented intelligence with computers is not trying to give computers a mind of their own, because actually computers aren't very good at doing that. They're great at things like image recognition and pattern recognition. They're not great at thinking outside the box. Well, it turns out that a lot of these kind of tasks that we have to do at Teem, they're actually just repetitive tasks that people do every day and hate doing, like scheduling a meeting and not forgetting people. And that's where augmented intelligence comes in. It's leveraging computers to do things that we can do, but we're terrible at because we don't like doing them, and we do them all day long and we do them wrong. So that's where augmented intelligence and these bots come into play. And when, I'm not inventing anything here. What I'm going to show you tonight is actually just bringing a bunch of tools together that have been built over the years that everyone is using to solve these same kind of problems. How can we leverage computers in interfaces that people like to use and know how to use and are good at using in a way to do repetitive tasks that we don't want to do? So, does that make sense? I mean, it's augmented intelligence. And then why else it's dang cool? A lot of what we're doing at Teem, honestly, we're doing it because it is really cool and people want our solutions in the workplace. And this is just one example of cool things. I mentioned that concept of just being able to walk into a conference room, and if it's got a video call, that the video conference just starts and everyone's there and you didn't have to do anything. We're actually, our new mobile application I mentioned, we're actually building those kinds of things into our new mobile application using beacons, so it knows where you are. We have a concept, since we know where you are and who you are and where you're supposed to be, the minute you walk into a conference room, it knows it. It knows where you're supposed to be, starts the video call, whatever you want to do. So that's why we're doing a lot of the things we're doing at Teem. It's not that you can't do these things without Teem, but we're doing it because it's cool and people want to actually have a great experience in the workplace. So there you go. All right, so let's jump into the actual bot. I guess before I do that, has anyone here written a bot? I mean, you have?
Scrapey.
Scrapey?
Yeah, the Scrapey websites.
Okay, great, awesome. Anybody have experience in writing kind of an augmented intelligence, interactive communication bot?
Chatbot?
Chatbot.
IRC?
Anybody have experience writing that?
Twitter. Tweetline.
Okay, all right. So
I've written Eliza.
Eliza, I'm not familiar.
It's the really old therapist bot.
It's built into Emacs.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool. All right. So what I'm going to show you tonight is a chatbot. The goal of this, we were hearing from a lot of our customers and one particular partner, Cisco, that people just want to interact with Teem and tools where they already spend their day. Cisco, we were talking about this in the halls, anybody even heard of Cisco Spark? Before tonight. Okay, interesting. Cisco Spark is a competitor to Slack. Anybody heard of Slack? Okay, everyone's heard of Slack. Okay, so everyone knows Slack. Microsoft Teams. There's really three big players kind of in the collaborative chat workplace environment, right? Slack, most common. Microsoft Teams, I think probably some have probably played with that. Cisco has created their version of this. It's tightly integrated with WebEx, which everyone uses. Their idea is we just want to, Cisco wants to provide a workplace tool that you can just spend your entire day in, right? So if you're a development group and there's 6 of you and you need to collaborate on a daily basis, you've got your chat, you can create your groups, you can chat, you can very quickly jump into a WebEx or a video call. Cisco Spark is becoming their hub. In fact, WebEx is going to be rebranded as part of the Cisco Spark framework. So this is kind of a new thing. Cisco's trying to take a run at this. They would love to have our solution integrated to it. They know they're coming from behind, and they're looking for partners like us that can plug solutions into their bot, their chat, to add value. So one of the first things I've been on now team for about 11 months. One of the first things that happened was our biz dev guy cornered me and said, "Hey, Cisco really wants to be integrated with us." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And he said, "Well, they want a Spark bot." And I said, "What's Spark?" But that kind of started this whole process. And the concept here is you're having a Slack conversation with, I mentioned that example before where you've got 6 people, maybe in different offices, and you're chatting about something. And you're going back and forth on a particular topic, but oftentimes that leads into needing to have a face-to-face conversation. So I don't know if this happens to you much, but it happens to me all the time where I'm chatting with a few people, and somewhere in the dialogue somebody says, "Hey, we should just get together and talk about this." Or "Let's meet next Tuesday about this. Can we just get together?" Happens all the time. Well, what we would like to have happen there is Slack or Cisco or whatever tool you're using, understanding that kind of conversation, identifying what you're trying to do, taking the context being who you're talking to, what time frame you mentioned, and then doing those mundane things that we are bad at, looking at other people's calendar to see when they're available, understanding time zones, finding the right space, if you want video conferencing, understanding that context, and then just doing it for you, right? It's your artificial assistant in this world. That's what I'm going to show you tonight is the beginnings of this. I'm going to show it to you in Slack, but we also have a Cisco Spark version that I'll show you a little bit as well. So as I kind of dug into this, it was one of those things that had come up quite a bit, and I was kind of curious about. I mentioned to a few of you that we were driving up to Wyoming, and my wife was driving, and I was kind of bored, so I pulled out my laptop and I prototyped this while we were driving. So that's kind of the beginnings of what has happened here. Then I came back and, as Ferris mentioned, I said, "Hey, I got something to show." But since it's been built, actually, there's been this is just a proof of concept prototype, but there's been a ton of interest because now people can actually visualize and understand what that actually means. So, talking through a couple of the technologies that went into this and some of the choices that I looked at when I was going into this. There's 3 major components to this. The first one is an NLP or an NLU engine. Has anybody done anything with NLP or NLU? Okay, just you, Ferris?
There's one more.
Okay.
Tim, you did, right?
Do you guys know what NLP, natural language processing, is conceptually? What it is? So NLP, natural language processing, it's having the computer understand human speech and doing something important with it. NLU is a subset of NLP, and it is not natural language processing. It is just the natural language understanding. It's actually the part that actually, if you are just trying to have the computer understand and then take action, that's the part of NLP that it comes into play. So it's natural language understanding. There's a lot of great tools out there that do NLP, and some of them that do a slice of that, which is NLU. The first one I considered when I jumped into this was IBM Watson. Used that heavily in Moment. We used Watson to do NLP on all of our feedback that was coming in and process that and turn that into actual meaning. So it's turning text into actual meaning. So I looked into IBM Watson a little bit. There's a lot of open source tools out there. There's some Python open source tools, Java. I'm mostly familiar with Java, so OpenNLU is one that I looked at. But at the end of the day, for me, the easiest thing was a solution around NLU that was already purpose-built around natural language understanding. Watson and OpenNLU and those kinds of things are actually kind of heavy-handed. So I found a solution called, which I wasn't familiar with prior to kind of digging into this, called Rasa NLU, and it's specifically built around providing the natural language understanding parts for chatbots, and it's used by a number of different groups out there, and it is written in Python. So when I found that, I thought, hey, that looks pretty interesting. So that's what, I'll kind of show why that's important in a minute, why having an NLU engine in there is so important. I needed the ability to put this into a service. My goal as I went into this was not to just have an engine that could support chatbots, but I wanted an engine that could be interfaced by a lot of different kind of front ends, chatbot being one of them. We also have an Alexa integration, a voice integration, so it'd be nice to be able to take this and put it behind Alexa, so you could say, hey, Alexa, do these things, and it would work. Also, email is another one. Anything that is kind of textually based could be front-ended by, back-ended by this service. So wanted to hide this all behind a nice microservice. I looked at a couple different options. Like I said, I'm kind of traditionally a Java guy, so I looked at Java for a little bit. Java's great, but I wanted something a little lighter weight, lighter weight and faster. So looked into Node a little bit, which I'm very familiar with, but we've been looking at Go at Teem as a possible addition to our stack, and I didn't know Go, so I thought, well, let's go try Go. So I actually chose to do the microservice here in Go, more to help me understand it than anything. And then Chatbot, there's a lot of different ways to interface with Slack, Cisco Spark, Teams. There's a lot of different tools out there. You can just go native. Every one of the chat providers provides their own APIs and SDKs to do it. But there's some things that wrap that. BotKit is one of them. It's very, it's actually got interfaces to almost everything: Twitter, Facebook, Microsoft, Slackbot. So I ended up choosing Rasa, Go, and BotKit, but could have gone with any of these options, honestly. Architecture. So this is kind of how it all came together for me. So you've got a chatbot, and you're having this conversation with somebody inside Slack. Hey, can we meet tomorrow? What that does is it's calling back through the BotKit, and I'm going to jump into code in a minute and show how this all works. It calls back through the BotKit, which is all built in Node. That calls through to the microservice over HTTP, calls into the Rasa NLU engine, also over HTTP as a service, and does all the processing. The TeamGo microservice does some work around identifying the results from that NLU engine and understanding what kind of availability people have, and that gets all passed back into the front end and gives a recommendation back to the user on when to book. Actually, let's jump into this and look at the real thing. So since nobody's built a bot, this is actually really easy to do. I mean, if you're interested in building an app for Slack, a bot, there's actually not that much to it. You're going to see there's not a lot of code to this. It's a lot of wiring together pieces. So let me just jump out of the presentation here, and one of the first things you need to do, as I lost my screen.
I think you have to move it to the side. Or mirror. Like move the window. It's on the right or the left? Mm-hmm. Let me see. Yeah, there you are.
Oh.
But do you want to just mirror it?
Yeah, just mirror that. So while he's working on that, thanks for the tech support, Ferris.
That's what I'm here for.
One of the first things you need to do is actually go into the chat solutions, and they're all extendable. So we'll show you how you do that in Slack first, and it's actually very easy. When you want to build an app for Slack, you create a developer account on Slack. It's all free. You go in and tell it what kind of application you're going to build. And there's lots of different kind of applications you build. This happens to be a bot application. You tell it what kinds of things that you want to do. In this scenario, I wanted it to be interactive, so I could, when I prompt the user to do something, you can have buttons and interactions. I wanted to be able to do slash commands, and I wanted to be able to use WebSockets to communicate. So you create a new application. It gives you a client ID, and that's what we're going to use in the bot kit. So at that point, it's really that client ID that allows your code to talk back to Slack and back and forth. Cisco Spark, almost the exact same thing. It gives you a bot ID, and you can do the exact same thing. So let's jump into a little bit of code.
You want your presentation?
Yeah. Well, will it not switch windows? Oh, there we go.
Click play.
There we go.
Is this your preferred text view?
So this is Keynote. This is where I do all my coding.
Oh, man, you should check that out.
I pulled out a little bit of there's a lot of code before, after, and I pulled some stuff out. So Slackbot, I mentioned it's all in Node, and it's built to be very extensible. So you just drop it in, you drop the Slack or the bot kit in, and then you can actually create different Node files for every bot that you want to show. So this is actually the Slack bot. The Cisco Spark Bot is very similar, but it has a few different kinds of things on how you respond back to Cisco. So it makes it really easy. It abstracts all the complexity around having to deal with all the individual providers out of it. At the end of the day, it's allowing you to just put in hooks when it hears different kinds of things. In this case, I'm actually telling Slack, it doesn't matter what people type. I'm not looking for slash commands. I'm not looking for @ commands. I'm looking for anything. So I'm actually listening to anything that is talked about in the conversation, and I'm running it through NLP. Now there could be some security concerns here. I'm well aware. I'm actually running every part of everyone's conversations in this scenario through NLP. I know that I'm well aware that there's some people that may not like that. But it works really well, and I'll show you in a minute how it works. It's not the only way to pull this off, but it's an interesting way to pull it off. The line that's in yellow is calling back into the microservice. So it's taking out of the message whatever somebody typed. That's what the message text is, passing that through to the microservice, and I'll show you where that goes from there. And then from here, if the response comes back and it is the appropriate kind of response, it was a meeting request, I'm starting a conversation with the user to see if they want to book that meeting. So that's the bot side of things. Here's where it's calling into the server, which is a Go microservice. I've cut out a lot of the stuff before and after, but it's not doing a whole lot. It's taking the JSON, calling back into the NLU engine, and if the NLU, I cut out all the parts of this that actually identify. It's identifying whether it's an actual meeting request or not, but I cut out all the code around once it is a meeting request, what should we do with that? In this scenario, if it's a meeting request, I'm going out and looking at everyone's individual calendars. I'm finding free time and then giving a recommendation back. I cut all that code out of here, but this gives you the concept of go find the appropriate, go run NLU, find the appropriate time, and let's make a recommendation. This is actually the call into the NLU server. It's actually very simple, as I mentioned. I didn't actually have to do much other than train up the NLU server. So there's a couple ways to do this line here where it's posting. All I'm doing is I'm taking the text. If somebody said, hey, can we meet tomorrow? I'm taking that text, I'm passing it into localhost 5000 parse, and it's running it through its training set, and then I'm looking for the response. We'll jump into the training in a minute, but that's really the magic behind these NLU engines, is you can train them to look for certain types of speech. Dylan?
And that was setting up the NLU was a Docker that you set up, and then it was just running its own server. Like,
Which part?
when you set up the NLU, that was just running as like you're running that as a microservice, and that was.
Are you referring to the NLU engine, or are you referring to the
NLU engine?
The NLU engine is actually, it's all written in Python, and it's actually a service. And to start that up, they made it really easy. You can embed it right into your Python as a library, but they also just put an HTTP engine right into their solution. So to start it, all you have to do is execute their Python server and give it a port, and it starts right up.
Yeah, it's a Python module, so it's Python-m and then Rasa. Yeah, it's really well written.
Yep. So it was really easy to fire up Rasa and easy to call it from, in this case, Go, just as an HTTP post. So the training part was actually the most interesting part of this. If you haven't done NLP before, there's a couple ways to tackle NLP. You can either give it rules that look for individual parts of speech and try to do something interesting with it. That's a lot of work. We did that over at InMoment. Tons of work. We hired an entire text analytics group that became very good at writing text analytics rules. The better way to do that is using machine learning. And that's what I've done here is I've used Rasa's machine learning engine where I just give it examples. I think the next slide might have a snippet of this. I do. So to train up Rasa, it's actually as simple as providing it a JSON file with examples of what kinds of speech represent what you're looking for. So this is just some examples. You have to give it a few, and we can actually retrain it if you want here in a minute. For example, I gave it some examples. Can we meet tomorrow to talk? We meet next week to talk. We should get together tomorrow. And I have about a dozen of these in here. What it does is that you train it, you run it through their machine learning engine, and it kind of magically starts to understand when things look like this, I'm going to do this. And it's actually really easy to train it up. I'll show you some examples of training this up. So with just maybe a dozen examples of what a meeting request looks like, it starts to actually understand better. It actually understands variants of this. Surprisingly, it does a really good job at understanding variants.
I was going to say, do you, for the configuration, do you set thresholds for confidence? Because it's coming back with,
yes.
you never have a 100% match. It's like, I'm 95% sure it's this, or I'm 98%. So if you set if it's below a 85% confidence, don't ask the question.
You can. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
When we run this. It'll actually spit out all the different kinds of rules that you've trained it on,
Nice.
and it will actually spit out the confidence levels and give you the one that is most confident in.
Nice.
So it's very nice. Really easy to train up. One of the things that I had originally done is, let me actually jump out to a training file.
And also getting back to what Dylan was kind of hinting toward was from a DevOps perspective, are you running the Rasa NLU in a Docker container?
I'm not running the Rasa NLU in a Docker container currently, but that would probably be the way that you would want to run this. And I'm not running that Go microservice in a container either yet, but yes, that's the way you would run both of those. Absolutely.
You could put it in a swarm really easily.
Yeah, you could.
Sure.
Yeah. Right now I'm just firing up off the command line because it's easy for me, but once we actually take this and actually
when we go to
actually get into development, we'll move it into Docker for sure.
There were surprisingly few dependencies with a lot of this, so.
Yeah. So you can see some of the meeting request examples that I have here. Let's schedule some time for tomorrow. Let's meet tomorrow. Let's meet next week. You can see here, if you look, some of these things that are in this training file were already here just as an example on how you would train it. So it's got how to look for a hello, how to look for an affirm. There were some examples in here of how to look for a restaurant. So it had some examples, and you notice, for example, in this line here, you can actually start to train it up on individual parts of speech. So in this scenario, you've got, I'm looking for an Indian spot called, I have no idea what that is. But what it's actually doing here is you can see that it's giving it a start and an end character and saying that represents cuisine of a certain type, and you can train it up that way. I started going down that path when I started building this around timeframes, because I wanted to know not only requests for can we meet, but I wanted to know the time frame they were asking for. can we meet tomorrow? Can we meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock? Can we meet next month? I needed to understand the time frame. You'll notice, however, in my examples, I don't have any of that. Where are my examples? In my examples, I actually don't have, in this example, I don't actually have tomorrow segmented as something it should look for. Turned out that Rasa, because it's already got a lot of nice things in it, I actually was able to just do, it has the ability to do plugins. It already had a time frame plugin that already knows how to look for tomorrow, next week. So I actually was able to go through and strip out all of that from my training set, and it already knew how to deal with that. And I'll show you how good it is. You'll notice I don't have things in here like, can we meet in April? But it figures it out anyway because of the training set. And I've maybe only got a dozen examples of what to look for. We could certainly, when we go forward with this and train it up for real, we would have a lot better examples. But it actually does a pretty good job. All right. What do I have next here? Oh, demo. Okay. So I've talked. You're all saying stop talking. Let me see it work. Okay. So what you have here on the right side is Slack, and on the left side is the servers that are running. They're all running in the same window. You're going to see the output kicked out. So I can type hello. Notice that hello is not going to do anything, but I did run it through. I did run it through the entire service. It went through the microservice. It went through the chatbot, and you're seeing the Rasa information being kicked out. So that was a greeting. I just ignored it. I'm not looking for greetings. I also, when I was training this up, I built in, while I was kind of playing with this, I built in looking for stock quotes. So what is the current price, I hope this will work, for IBM? Yeah, so that identified that as a stock quote request. So, but interesting part for Teem is you're having this conversation and you just say, hey, can we meet next June? So you'll notice what happened on the left side there is it did identify that. Let's scroll back down through here. Keep going. That was way too much data. Can we meet tomorrow? How about?
Oh, I know why I did that.
Well, look through the entire month.
Yeah.
So if I can find the beginning here. So it did identify it as a meeting request because the NLU engine identified and by its rule set that it was looking for a meeting request. It also identified the from time frame. I actually need to go back a little bit further here. I think that's in here. It did identify the from time frame, so it's got tomorrow identified in here. What I'm doing from that, I've got to go back further. Let's try this again. I'd like to show you.
Return lines, just hit enter in the return line window
Yeah.
2 times. Oh.
If you want to be really pro, it's Control L.
Control L. Okay. Let's get a clean. There we go. All right. So it queried for can we meet tomorrow. This all ran through the NLU engine. Rasa responded back with what it found. So this is where you get into the confidence. You'll notice it is looking for multiple things. It did identify this as a meeting request because it had a confidence of 0.7 versus a lot of the other ones. But it also did look at some of the other like goodbye, for example. It did compare that against the goodbye rules, and it got a low confidence rating, 0.07. Restaurant search got a 0.05. Yeah. And you can kind of tweak that, and the better you train it up, the higher your confidence is going to get. So you see that it got a high confidence on a meeting request, so it responded back to the microservice. The microservice got the intent, said, hey, I got a meeting request. It passes back the time frame, so it identified tomorrow. The Rasa engine did that for me. I didn't have to do anything to get that. From there, I had to do a little bit of work to identify exactly what that means. And the users that I'm looking for are all Google Calendar users, so I then called in the microservices, and this isn't code that I showed, called back through the free busy APIs for Google, checked to see when the individuals that are on this meeting request are busy, then basically just wrote some code to identify 30-minute blocks where they're free, took the top 5, and kicked them back. It turns out in this case there was only 4. The people that I asked, can we meet tomorrow, are only available at 5, 5:30, 9:30, and 11 p.m. for whatever reason. It's actually myself and Kyle Jacobson, our director of product management, are the ones I look, and it turns out those are the only available slots that he and I have tomorrow that overlap for 30-minute chunks. And this won't work if I click book it right now because I actually don't have the web. I don't have the configuration set, but hit book it and it will book it, and it could book the meeting if I had that set up right now.
How does the bot kit handle like that sort of interaction? It's not text. Is it a
These
similar
here?
thing that sends text?
Yeah, so I can show you that. And this is where inside BotKit, you notice I've got a Slack bot, which is all built in Node, and then I've got a Spark bot. The interactions between those two are different. For example, Spark doesn't have those buttons. It's not something that they support. So inside, that's why you have to create separate bots for individual chat engines. The code ends up being very similar. In this scenario, building those buttons in Slack is what they call an attachment. So I'm creating a bunch of attachments with buttons. In Spark, I'm doing that just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you can type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every user interface is a little bit different, and that's where the bot kit is really nice. It abstracts out, it hides everything that is common, and then you just fill in the blanks for what you want to do specifically for the front end chat engine. Make sense? Okay, so I think that's the highlights for the chat. We can extend it, but questions on anything? Questions, comments, thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, this kind of shows some of this is a little over my head, but so what do you know?
Rasa.
Rasa?
Yeah.
What did Rasa generated? So there you had the NLU, and then that creates like a scalar field of the different comments, right? Like it vectorizes each thought vector based upon, so like the user says something, and then it generates a thought vector, right? And then things that have adjacency, so it's like a scalar field, right? Things that have adjacency are similar thoughts or something, right? And then the Rasa analyzes the thought vector. Is that what it does? And then,
yeah.
And then it generates the probability that it's a certain kind of meaningful response.
Yeah.
And then you take the response of and then process it. Well, what's the thing after the Rasa?
So after the Rasa, so the way that I don't know all the ins and outs of exactly how Rasa works from its internal solution, but it's using an NLP engine, which is effectively, it understands parts of speech. So the Rasa developers using kind of common NLP NLP actually is not, 10 years ago it was not very well understood and there weren't very many libraries. Now there's 1 million libraries out there to do parts of speech in NLP. So NLP is actually what it, under the hood, it does is it's built to understand nouns, verbs, the parts of speech, put them together, and then it uses machine learning to basically calculate how close what you're asking for matches to the rule it's got. So the output of that,
the rule it's got.
Yeah. So when you run it through a training set,
you have a matrix. You have a list of responses
of potential responses.
And so you're calculating which one it's most likely to be.
What it's closest to. That's right. Yeah. It's basically, and I don't know exactly what algorithm it's using under the hood.
Okay.
I've never, I've never built that part, but it's got the logic that can basically say this is closest to this at some probability, and it responds back to you with that probability.
And then you take, sorry to make you summarize
Nope.
everything you said again, but
no
then
problem.
after the Rasa, then now you have the probability with the response.
Yep. So the response out of Rasa is it gives a couple things back in JSON. It gives a little JSON document back that says, here's what you here's the part of speech that you passed in.
Yeah.
Then it passes back, I had it on the screen there a minute ago, but it passes back a little JSON snippet that says, these are the rules that we compared it against, and this is the probability that your part of speech matched these rules. And then and then as following that, it says, based on the calculation, we believe it matches this intent. It calls them an intent, is what RASA calls it. In this case, I created a meeting request intent. So in that case, it picks out the highest probability. It says, hey, we believe this is a meeting request intent. And then it gives additional data with some of those additional pieces in there that you were looking for, like tomorrow. It identified tomorrow and then broke that into tomorrow actually is between 12 a.m. and 12 a.m. the next day. So it gave
RASA does that.
RASA does that for me for free because of the plugin. There's a particular plugin that I put in there, and let me see if I have the file open where I can show you that.
I mean, where that's really kind of situation specific. Oh, to tune parameters of the response, basically.
So this is actually how
have
you
like a generic response, and then you can tune arguments to it.
That's
like
right.
What time?
Right. And the way you can do that with RASA is you can either tell it specifically, like the Indian food example, you can actually try to train it specifically what Indian food restaurants look like, or you can use one of the off-the-shelf training modules that already exist. The list up there, I'm running this through their pipeline, and I'll have to remember which one. There's got to be a date time up there.
Which dish to suggest of Indian food, you say?
Well, yeah, if somebody had built one of those, you could include that
You're
as
talking
the
about an
pipeline.
additional module where you would take the time to run, but
Yeah.
anyway, okay.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this, Tim and I, last thing here, and like the difference between a search engine where you're vectorizing the input language, and then you have this database where you're rendering a result within this finite database.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the idea of, we were kind of saying that would not be a chatbot, that would be more like a search engine. What about like the context where you have this conversation where previous comments are also intertwined? Is that
So the question around a search engine, actually search engines use the same technology, but what they do after is very different, right? A search engine is going to take your parts of speech, run it up against their probability against the database. I mean, that's what Google does, right? They've already done the mapping, but they are using the same concepts. They're using NLP, they're actually using more NLU type concepts to do matching. The difference is what you do with it afterwards. In this scenario, you could have a two-way conversation.
how would previous dialogue be
Yep.
here?
So inside, and this is inside this Slack bot, this is still heavily in the works, but what you can do in BotKit is you can actually start a conversation. So tell me if this answers your question, but what I'm actually doing here is once I identify that it was a meeting request, I create some responses, then I start a conversation. And the conversation actually starts scope. So once you start a conversation, you can actually look back at, I said, the user said this, then the bot said this, and then the user said this, and then the bot said this.
So it has scope on a topic would have scope, and then you can move on to the next.
That's right. And you can start and stop a conversation at any point.
That's smart.
Yeah. So when I'm popping up those buttons, and I click a button, clicking the button is actually a response to a conversation. It could continue on.
I think it must have to do with this idea that every thought vector, that similar thoughts have adjacency, and that if you subtract the two back, maybe if their distance apart is too great, then that means it's a different topic.
Yeah, if you're talking from the NLP matching up to a particular topic, absolutely. Inside this conversation scope, this is where, as a developer, you would just decide, do I want to end the conversation or not? What happens with what I'm doing here is every time the bot is responding with something, the user then can respond back, and then I run that through NLP again. And in that scenario, if you're trying to do what you're talking about, which is let's go further, let's have a two-way conversation. You would train your NLU engine up to look for the next step. I haven't done that here. I've got this NLU engine really looking for one single thing, other than the planning. I'm having to look for meeting requests. However, could go one step further. Could say, hey, can we meet next Friday? And the user could say, well, I'd really, better example. Yeah, that'd be great. Can you include a WebEx meeting, for example, or something along those lines? That could be another NLU hit that could come back and say, okay, now we just triggered a different rule, which is what kind of AV needs do you have?
Or I'm kind of busy at that time, but maybe in a half an hour.
Absolutely, yeah. So this could all be trained up to do that, and as we take this, as we actually probably take this down to actual production, we'll actually have to build in some of these kind of things. Which not there yet, but you could absolutely make this more of a two-way conversation than it is today.
We want to see if it's cogent,
Yeah. There's nothing, I mean, as far as the tools go, there's nothing preventing. Really, at this point, it's kind of what you can imagine. In fact, how much time do we have, Ferris?
Probably another 4 minutes.
Another 4 minutes. Okay, last thing then. Well, actually, 4 minutes. Do you want to see how easy this is to train up? To kind of go on that example. So, who's got something that you might want to? What's an idea that we could train this up on? I did stock quotes last night just to see what we could do. And to do the stock quote, I had to give it. Was that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 examples of what asking for a stock quote looks like?
What's the weather in 15 minutes?
Okay.
Because it's Utah, so it's going to change.
Okay, so we'll just make this easy. So, what's the weather? And this will be an intent of. We'll just make it easy. Weather. Then to train this up well, you have to give it several, and we can see how we can make this better. So
you should do Utah, am I right? And then it'll know you're talking about the weather.
How's the weather in Utah?
What's the temperature today?
What's the temperature today? Yeah, that's a good one. Temperature, is that right? Today?
What input are you going to give it? You said you're going to ask it about a stock quote?
That was the previous one.
That's a previous example that I had. So, should I wear a jacket today?
Yeah, that's always a good one. Yeah. If you have a Google Home, it'll always answer that one too, and Alexa.
Should I wear a rain jacket today? I don't know. We may have enough at this
umbrella?
point. Yeah.
When can I start wearing shorts?
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we get this with that. So Rasa is as simple as it's already knows how to read that file, so I'm just going to tell it to train, and this takes a little bit of time for it to train, and then we'll see if it works. Oops. My stop command kills all Python.
Oh.
So that's not going to work.
And the train script is built in?
Yeah. The train script, I have a little execute. Let's see. Let's remember what the train does. I think it doesn't do much. So it's calling a Python module for training and passing in a configuration file that tells it where the training file is. So actually very easy to train. And it came with that training file that I have there. Most of that was right out of the example, and I just started copying and pasting and adding to it. So it should be trained up. So now we'll just start the bot back up. And what's the weather today? And it does take a minute for the Rasa engine to fire up. So the first time around. So let's just see what it does. Now it's not gonna respond anything back to Slack. I haven't, we have to wire, if we see this intent, then do this. That's not gonna be wired up. But we should see here in a minute. There we go.
Intent weather.
So you'll see that the intent is weather. So it did get that.
What was that confidence? Weather.
Let's see, confidence.
Like 37%.
0.37. So it's not as high as you'd like. So that's where you'd go in and train it more and more and more.
So we said, do I need a jacket today? How would it respond to, do I need a coat today?
Let's see. Weather.
Nice.
So that's the beautiful thing about using NLP. You certainly could go out and build a rules engine in some language that says if people say these kinds of things, but things like Rasa, and there's a lot of them out there. Rasa's not the only example. I think it's a great example in this scenario, but it does a really good job at kind of dissecting those parts of speech and understanding that coat, jacket, they have the same intent, and it just works. So there you go.
Watson was another thing you'd considered.
Yeah, Watson, and I've used Watson in the past,
Yeah.
and Watson is fantastic. It's amazing. It's really good, but it would have taken me several days probably to get this running versus...
It's a setup time.
I had the NLU up and running and finding results once I figured out how to kind of get it running in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So, and it's very specifically built for rapid chatbot building. So it was kind of a win-win. And we're a Python shop and it's in Python. I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer once I looked at it. It's very easy to train.
And one question about Teem. Since the tooling you're building is all about people working more efficiently, do you actually use your products in-house?
Absolutely.
So it goes right from development right into you guys first?
Oh, we eat our dog food.
We eat our own, very much so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
We even spun up some new rooms just to mess with them.
Yeah.
I have broken applications on my game right now that I can show.
And it really is a lot of fun. I mean, honestly, our developers have a lot of fun because we actually are eating our own dog food and we're building cool stuff. So, another plug for Teem. You should come work with us. This is a project that has been, I've been playing with the proof of concept, but here in the next month, hopefully, we're going to have this into full-blown development. So, if you actually want to get paid to work on some of this kind of stuff, come
Do you have internships?
We have a couple interns on right now. We've had a couple developer interns. We've had a couple QA. If we find good interns, I mean, we're not actively pursuing them, but it's kind of an if we find an intern that fits our needs, absolutely. Other questions about this? About anything? Yeah.
Kind of two questions. There was a spot where it was doing the Indian restaurant, and it looked like it was just kind of garbage. And you were saying, from here to here, is there a wildcard thing where you can, instead of doing ABC and GE and Apple and all that stuff, for the stockholders?
It actually is. That actually is a wild card by itself.
Okay.
What you're actually saying is, this if something comes, the way NLP works is it's actually not looking at the actual text. So, ABC, EFD, it's not really looking at that. What it's doing is it's looking at what comes before and what's after.
Okay.
So, what you're saying is, between characters 20 and 28, it's a placeholder for something, and your way you're going to understand that is by the before and after. So, specifically with like Indian food, you will have to train that up on a number of examples, so it can start to. I'm not really sure exactly. So unfortunately, not somebody that knows NLP better than I do in here, but the NLP guys have this all figured out where, it's pretty good, as you saw it there with the jacket and the coat. Somehow they've got the rules figured out to understand that those are the same thing without actually hard coding them, right? There's nothing in Rasa that knows that jacket and coat are the same, but the NLP's
It's probably what it's doing is it takes your examples and then it generates more examples from it. So your one example actually turned into hundreds by swapping synonyms in.
Yeah.
And then running the.
Yeah. One of the kind of pioneers of all this is Stanford. Stanford has an NLP dictionary out there that actually has a lot of mappings about these parts of speech match to these parts of speech. Most of these engines are built on what Stanford started. In fact, that's one of the engines I looked at. Stanford has an open source Java project that a lot of people have used as their kind of baseline for understanding parts of speech. Other questions? Okay. Well, thank you for letting me come talk to you tonight and show off what you're doing.
Thank you, guys. So a lot of you guys know that I used to be pretty much a 1 to 3 man shop at Zaniac. Who was at the Zaniac location when we were meeting there? A few people, right? So I just want to say that it's nice to be able to work with a team, including the CTO and director of tech, and they're like, hey, I have some code that I want to try out too. It's a nice change. It's a nice change. Even a couple of salespeople have approached me and said, hey, I want to learn some Python. Where do I look? And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a couple of places. You should check this out. I am missing the 3D printer. No, I'm not. The 3D printer?
Influence your boss here.
Oh yeah. So I don't miss the 3D printer because
At work?
yeah.
I actually had it in my old office.
Yeah, I don't miss it because I was the one who had to fix it all the time. So. Yeah, all the kids used to break that little thing. Now's everybody's favorite little part. You see that okay? So let's do the raffle. First off, let's make sure that everybody has a number written on their name tag. Boom, everybody has a number. And we're going to find out the hard way if we duplicated these numbers.
Who thinks they have the highest number?
Yeah, who thinks they have the highest? Who's 22? 23? No one? Okay, well, let's do some live coding. Before we do some live coding, I do want to show, did anybody read XKCD?
Yes.
It's like, does anybody know the internet, right?
This is on fire this week, actually.
I know. When it comes to tech, on fire. So this is one of the latest ones.
Yeah, that should have gone in our community meetings.
Yeah, this probably should have been it. So with that being said, I'm going to open my Python, and you all are going to laugh.
You're gonna open it.
Well, today's is great too. It's about Docker.
Yeah, today's was Docker. It's pretty funny. That's an exercise for the reader. So here we go, and yeah, it's a complete mess. I don't know what happened, but all of my Python on this laptop is just completely forked, but it still runs. So
That's why you should use Conda for everything.
I do use Conda. This is even with Conda. And I can't see my screen right now, so I'm like.
Use frameworks instead.
Come on, just give me an IPython.
Just do IPython.
There we go, 3. Yes! Okay, that makes me happy. Yeah, I really need to do some spring cleaning on this laptop. I think what happened actually is that, Brew, I would never destroy a company property. Homebrew, you guys know Homebrew on Mac. They updated Python to Python 3 and then just didn't tell anybody, or they did, or I don't know, it broke everything. So here we go.
Can you just run blue dot and just do it as a live?
And I'm typing in a tiny screen. So import random and number of Pythonistas. How many was it? 24, because I'm 0. You guys like pair programming? It's fun to pair program with some groups.
There's, you weren't so proud last time. It's only, somebody asked, oh, is there 0? And of course there is.
0 to number of Pythonistas. And Derek, do you want to hit enter on this? Because they're drawing.
Because you don't want to.
I don't want to influence it. Number 2.
All right.
So who's the second person? Yeah. So we're going to do 4 drawings tonight, I decided. You get to choose anything, including the mystery box.
Oh man. I'm gonna go with the mystery box.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you.
You have to show what
right.
it is to everybody, though.
It's a mug.
Yeah. What kind of mug?
Python Meetup
It's
mug.
a Python Meetup mug.
All right.
Yeah. It goes well with hot chocolate and shattered dreams. Just kidding. Mostly hot chocolate.
Beautiful is better than ugly.
Right?
Anybody
Right.
doesn't know what that means, they should find
Oh
out
yes.
about this.
So actually Derek didn't know about this today, so he's one of the lucky 10,000. He got to learn it today. How cool is
That's
that?
pretty cool. It's
Yeah,
pretty cool to
so
learn.
if you don't know, you get to be one of the lucky 10,000. In a Python REPL, you can just do import this, and that'll open up the Zen of Python. If you ever have an argument about how something should be written in Python, because there's 10 different ways to do it, You can always just say, readability counts, right? It's like one of the things.
Right,
or
yeah.
you can say, you know,
Consistency matters.
consistency matters. Now is better than never. I feel like this is an important one for any like enterprise. Although never is often better than right now, right? I love it.
Brilliant.
It is.
And if you're very familiar with this, I suggest checking out the source code.
Yeah, that's another
You can
exercise
see-
for the reader. But
yeah.
it is pretty brilliant. The
It's
other one,
hilarious. It's an insight.
I actually used the source code from the next one in order to do some pop-ups for scripts, but this one's called import anti-gravity.
Yeah.
So do you guys know this one? So this one should open. I opened it in here in my default browser. And said, hey, you're flying now. How? Python. I just learned it last night. So simple. Hello world is just print hello world. This needs to be updated now. And of course, I don't know, dynamic typing, white space. Hey, come join us. Programming's fun again. It's a whole new world up here. But how are you flying? I just typed import anti-gravity, which is pretty fun. That's it. And I also sampled everything in the medicine cabinet for comparison. But I think this is the Python. So that's a pretty, I love this. Yeah, so by the way, one reason that I always try to sign off with, but we're still doing the drawing, but I'm still going to say it. Code is for people, which is why I like Python, which is why I love running this group. So that's all I'm going to say. Code is for people. Keep that in mind. Whenever you're like having a discussion or just feeling really down, go on a walk with some people, grab some coffee with people, and then come back and code for people. Okay? Anyway, let's do another drawing. Oh, I keep thinking my mouse is over here. Boom, boom, import, and I'm going to hit enter this time if that's okay. 19! Who's 19? Yeah! Sherry, you're up. What did you want? We got this little circuit board. This one is pretty sweet, the Circuit Playground Express. If you hit one of these with just your finger, it'll read it as like a touch. Has a resisted sensor and lights, and yes.
Thank you, Ferris.
Don't thank me. Thank you, group. Yes. Do you want to hit enter? Boom. Number 13. Who's 13? Yeah, Evan. Go for it. We got a Raspberry Pi, illustrated guide to Python. We got a shirt. No more mugs. Oh wait, you know what? I have. Okay, I'm sorry. This should have been out here already, but I forgot already. We have stickers. Of course, with the logo. I'm very excited about this logo. Can you guys tell? So yes.
Do you have other sizes of shirts?
It's just medium right now, but online. Raspberry Pi. Do you want to hit enter for me? Or I guess on a Mac it's return. 7. Who's 7? Yeah! Sweet. Yes, we only have 2 t-shirts. They're medium size. Yeah. And you know what? It's May, which is 5, so let's do a 5th person. Bonus! Sorry, I felt like saying bonus, but go for it. Number 9! Yeah! Sweet. Awesome. Oh, you're just going for a sticker?
Yes, a sticker.
Oh, sweet. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Next meetup's going to be June 6th, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to open a calendar. I always keep checking, but it's the first Wednesday is June 6th. So that will be Dylan's talk. It's going to be about data science. We tend to switch between like data science and web stuff, about 40-40, and then the last 20 is like random Python thing you never knew about. So,
or fractals.
Or fractals. That, yeah, that was a cool talk. So yeah, thank you for coming. I'm going to be cleaning up. You can grab me as I clean up, and I'll see you guys in a month. Drive safe.
I think I'm going to shoot before going over to Desert Edge after school? And
Oh,
get a
if
drink
you want
there?
after meetup,
After meetup drinks.
yes. Go to Desert Edge. Where's Desert Edge?
Charlie Square.
Charlie Square.
Okay, cool.